Let's get some experience. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing exactly what the title says, and we are going to buy a bunch of books. I am about to order my car to go to Barnes & Noble, and I'm very excited. Now let's talk a little bit about why I wanted to make this video in the first place. I just finished my fall quarter yesterday. Thank you very much. I may or may not have written an entire 12-page paper in one day. It was painful, but I'm a productive procrastinator, so I got it done. And I think I've been realizing that I don't really read for fun. Normally when I'm reading, it's always nonfiction, and it's always some super serious social justice related thing, and that's all I read. But as a kid, I used to love reading fantasy, reading for fun, reading things that weren't necessarily about the plight of the world. It was just me thinking about, you know, like vampires and stuff, and that was fun. And I had the next 3 weeks off from school for winter break, so I thought to myself, why don't I treat myself to some fiction, to some books and some series that are just for fun, just for me and nobody else. Reading for fun is something that I've wanted to get back into for a long time. I think sometimes that can be hard as a graduate student, specifically a graduate student in the humanities, because you spend so much time reading, and so it's like you're exhausted and you don't necessarily want to read more, but that also then means that you don't, like the fun of reading gets lost. And I'm really interested in reigniting that, because as generative and interesting as it is to read nonfiction and to read about social issues, it's also like intense, emotional, affective work. And I think I need to give my little soul a break, okay? Also, side quest for this evening, I am hoping to find the love of my life at Barnes & Noble tonight. Let me explain. I have this fantasy in my head where I'm just going to find like the most brilliant, sexy person at Barnes & Noble while I'm looking at a book. I'll show you exactly what I mean. It'll go something like this. At least in my head, this is how it goes. Okay, so this is me. I'll be wearing my glasses, of course. I'm at a bookstore, duh. And I'm standing in the aisle, I'm reading a book. Excuse me, you are the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. Can I take you out on a date? Tell me, what's your favorite type of book to read before I say yes to that? Well, you know, I'm really invested in the Black freedom struggle, and I'm really invested in intersectionality, and I read about that stuff all the time, and yeah, it's just my passion. I think you're my soulmate, and we should run off into the sunset together. Shall we? Oh yes, we shall. So that's my very realistic approximation of what I think is going to happen this evening. Yeah, let me go ahead and order a car. The closest Barnes & Noble to me is pretty far away, and they close at 8 o'clock. It is right now 6:30 p.m., okay? If you're wondering, Raven, why are you going to the bookstore at 6:30 p.m.? The answer to that is I didn't wake up until like 11 a.m. Okay, that's not really an excuse though, because, I don't know. You know sometimes how you just be blinking and the day is gone and you're like, what happened? That's kind of what happened to me today. So anyways, I'm gonna still get a little book going on though. A little booky book, a little book. Am I the only person who goes on multiple ride sharing apps and I compare the prices before I order? I'm sure I'm not the only person who does that. Okay, I found a core. I'm gonna order it. It's gonna be here in 4 minutes, so we need to get ourselves together. So I got my wallet so that I can pay for the copious amounts of books I'm about to purchase. So I have my wallet, check. I also need to bring a couple bags, because if you didn't know, in Chicago, they are really trying to move away from like disposable one-time use bags, which I think is great. And so they do charge you an extra fee if you like get a bag at a store, which again, I totally understand. I think it's great for the environment. So that does mean that I need to bring my reusable bags with me. Let's grab a couple reusable bags, and let's put a little refresher on the red lippy, since we might be meeting our soulmate tonight. All right, I have been using the same red, it's not even a lipstick, it's like a lip balm. The same lip balm since college for like the last 3 years. It's probably expired, honestly. I will not be throwing it away though. See, that's an important trick so it doesn't get on your teeth. Then it gets on your finger instead, and then you can wipe it off. See? Pro tips. Don't say I never did anything for you. Good enough. My soulmate will love me no matter what my lips look like, but they will look good though. All right, the very last thing is getting some reusable bags, but most of my reusable bags are actually filled up with other stuff right now, which is a little bit of a problem. So I only have one, but I'm gonna try to make it work. This is a Trader Joe's bag. We love Trader Joe's. Anyways, okay, my car's gonna be here in a minute. I will see you at the stove. And I just scared my cat, sorry. I did some serious damage at Barnes & Noble this evening. Let me show you the receipt so you know, no cap, okay? No cap. I spent $283 on books today. So let's talk about them. The first book that I got is one that was labeled as a top pick for book talk. Which, if you don't know, it's like a section of TikTok that's like very focused on books. And apparently this was written by someone who's very popular on Book Talk. I do not know this person, but the book seems interesting. It's called A Broken Blade, The Halfling Saga, okay, by Melissa Blair. It's interesting, it's about Kira. This is just from the back of the book, but it's about Kira, who is a killer, and she's the King's Blade. But she has a target in the magical lands of Fae, but when she gets to Faeland, it's not what she thinks it's gonna be. And as she searches for answers, she basically finds out that she has to save herself and the entire kingdom. So I like stuff like this. As I was looking at books, I think I kind of realized I am someone who really, really enjoys fantasy. Kind of like for the same reasons that I like watching reality television. There's something about the escapism of it all that I really appreciate. And I'm excited to get into this. Next selection, I wanted to get some poetry. I didn't just want to get books because it's important that we support poets, okay? Poets are fabulous. So I got this book called The World Keeps Ending and the World Goes On, which is just a really intriguing title to begin with. What? Like, what do you, if it ended, how does the world continue? It's by Franny Choi, and basically it's, to my understanding, about how in a lot of ways an apocalypse of sorts has already been happening in a myriad of ways for marginalized people, and yet life persists. I know that I said I was only gonna get like fun reads, but I lied, not on purpose, but I did lie. Because then when I got to Barnes & Noble, I kept seeing all these really interesting books that were a little more academic / based in the real world. But I mean, I don't really have an explanation for myself, but I'm excited to read this. And I think it's gonna be lovely. I mean, like depressing and real, but lovely. The next book I got is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. I think I'm saying that right. First of all, the cover is just really interesting. Like this whole idea of like one of them is the bad guy type of thing. I love that. It's giving me very like Pretty Little Liars, and I was a Pretty Little Liars girly, okay? Not only did I watch all of the episodes in the the mainstream series that aired on television on the CW. If you remember, I used to go home every day, not every day, but like whenever it aired after middle school, and I would like sit down and watch it like before everything was on Netflix and we had to watch things on television. Anyways, so I watched that entire series, and I also read a lot of the books, probably like 6 of the books. And I love like a good mystery. I love a good mystery, okay? That's also kind of folded in with the regular dramas of life, like dating and I don't know, family drama. And like, you know, I just like it. And that's kind of the vibe I got from this. So basically this book is about 5 students. They each end up in detention. So it's also kind of giving Breakfast Club a little bit. And one of the students never makes it out of the classroom. Before the end of detention, Simon is dead. Dun, dun, dun. Basically, it's about like, what the heck happened? And we love a good murder mystery. It's funny because oh, my camera's falling. I did order 2 new tripods so we don't keep having this issue when I'm filming. Because every time I film, my tripod like is trying to do a swan dive onto the ground. Now we're even tying. So I did order new ones. The next video will be less this. Okay, I completely lost my train of thought, but this seems great. I'm excited. Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This was one of the books that was on like the kind of the short, like sit down in one session and read them section, which I like that idea of like being able to read a book from start to finish in one go. And obviously I could read this from start to finish in one go, but it's a little bit longer, so it might take me 2-3 days versus this one I could probably read in a couple hours. I'm not a super fast reader. That's one thing about me. Like, I like to take my time, and I'm sure as I move through all these books, I'll become faster simply because I'll be practicing a lot more with nonfiction. But I feel like because I normally read fiction, it's very like dense and heady. So I can't speed read it. Like, I have to really focus versus nonfiction. I think it's a little easier to like move through, if that makes sense. And the book is based in a small back alley of Tokyo. There's this cafe and they've been, serving coffee for years, but there's a local legend that says this shop offers something besides coffee, and that thing is the chance to travel back in time. So, I mean, I love a cafe, I love cats, and there's a cat on the cover, and it just is cute and small, and so I bought it. Okay. The power. Okay, this next book that I got is called The Power. I like the hand. Should we see how my hand, hello, chair. Should we see how my hand matches up to it? It's like a baby hand compared to my hand. Basically, this book is kind of like The Handmaid's Tale in its tenor and energy. And the premise of it is that all over the world, women and girls they discover that they have power suddenly. And with a flick of their fingers, they can inflict terrible pain and death and all these horrible things. And this small twist of nature kind of drastically changes the entire social landscape. And that is so fascinating to me because it's still fiction, right? Like, to a certain extent, it's still giving me fantasy, but it's also rooted in something real. And I love a story that centers women and femme folks. I feel like it's very easy for me to connect to stories like that. Anyways, this looks really interesting. And I'm wondering what ends up happening to all the men in the world when these women get these powers. I'm curious and I need to find out. Next book. So this is definitely also more on like the serious realist side of things, but it is fiction. It's called Things Fall Apart. And essentially it's the first of 3 novels. So I love that, right? Like, I love series, and I actually bought a whole series, just 2 series actually, that I'll show you in a minute. But it's basically an African trilogy, and it's about the cataclysmic encounter that Africa had with Europe. And basically this tale is told through the fictional experiences of Okonkwo. I feel like I said that so American. I'm sorry, African diaspora. That was so, wow. Okonkwo. I think that was a little better. Sorry, hope I redeemed myself. And I hope I said it right, jeez. But basically this person is a wealthy and fearless Igbo warrior, and they are living through European colonization. So like, this is kind of more serious, but I feel like something that I have been lacking sometimes in my personal studies, because I'm a Black Studies scholar, is focusing more on the continent. Like, I feel like a lot of times in African American studies specifically, we talk about the continent as it relates to the US or to North America, but we don't necessarily meditate on the continent as much as we should. And I'm making that a priority moving forward. So yeah, I bought way more like serious books than I realized. Okay, anyways, this book is called How to Be a Revolutionary. It's a novel by C.A. Davids, and it's really interesting. It kind of draws all these connections between Harlem, Shanghai, and Cape Town through the 20th century, and thinking about like freedom struggles throughout those different places. So I love a good like internationally focused, transnational approach to revolution and freedom. It's a fictional story, like it follows fictional characters through those spaces, but offers like a commentary on those freedom struggles. So interesting. Here's a rare political thriller with an epic sweep. A political thriller! I've never heard that before. It's just so intriguing to me. I love it. Next book, The Similars. This book is about an elite boarding school, a secret society, a forbidden group of students, and an explosive start to junior year. Oh, okay, so I didn't realize, but this is more of like a high school. This is maybe a little young for me, but what was interesting to me is that there are 6 new students who go to Darkwood Academy, but they're DNA duplicates of the current students, joining the class alongside their originals. I find the idea of like duplicating and cloning to be really interesting in a very disturbing way. So thinking about how a scenario would play out where people who are similars or clones of other people interact with their originals, or the people they were cloned from, is like wild to me. I'm really curious how this person imagines that playing out in this world they've created. So I'm pumped. You know what I was realizing as well when I was at Barnes & Noble? it's really interesting how buying books and reading books, it's really about throwing yourself into someone else's mind. Like they create a world, they curate a world, and you're like, hey, I'm curious about the world that you curated and I wanna dive into it. And then you dive into it and maybe it evokes something for you or does something for you or makes you think in a different way because you're viewing life through a completely different paradigm. I don't know, it's really interesting. I mean, I feel like media does very much the same thing. It's like someone else having a vision, creating a thing, and then throwing you into it and, you know, see how you feel on the other side type of thing. It's really interesting how humans what it means to create and to have other people consume those creations and what that does for you as the creator and what that does for them as recipients of your creation. Fierce little things. So basically this is more of like a mystery type of thing. So there are 5 people, they like left their hometown or whatever, and then they get like blackmailed by someone being like, hey, you better come back or else I'm gonna expose your huge secret. And so they all get back together and it's like trying to figure out what happened and like how they can keep themselves from being exposed, and also very much like Pretty Little Liar-esque, but I mean, clearly there's a theme going on in the books that I bought, clearly. The next book I got is Belonging. It's a novel, and this is self-described, or like there was a little plaque above it, and it is described as Twilight but better. And I was a sucker for Twilight. Let me know in the comments down below if you were Team Edward or Team Jacob. I was Team Edward, okay? I can look back on that now and be critical of it, but at the time, as an adolescent, small child, I was Team Edward, so don't hold it against me. I feel like this is gonna bring up a lot of childhood nostalgia for me, and I'm ready for it. So I also bought 2 series, all right? So this first one that I got is The Red Queen and the Glass Sword. Comes in this little thing. Here are the books. Aren't they pretty? Very pretty. I was very, very struck by the description of this book. So basically, these are a commentary on class, status, and you know, we always love that in this anti-capitalist household, so I'm here for it. And then the second series that I got is called Uglies. I guess it's kind of a similar concept. So the back reads as such. In Tally Youngblood's world, looks matter. She lives in a society created to function with perfect looking people who never have a chance to think for themselves, and she's tired of it. First as an ugly, then a pretty, and finally a special. Tally takes down the social infrastructure, and then a generation later, a world obsessed with fame and instant celebrity and filled with extras will reap the consequences. So this is just super interesting. I feel like, especially as someone who works in social media, it's deeply apparent to me that looks matter, even though looks shouldn't matter. And to kind of have a commentary on that and the way that we like digest one another's phenotypic presentations, really interesting. And it's 4 books in this series. So I mean, hopefully I like it. Shit, I bought the whole box. If I don't like it, that'll be kind of awkward for me. But I'm going to speak it into existence. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love it. I'm sad to report that I did not find the love of my life at Barnes & Noble this evening. In fact, nobody spoke to me. Actually, that's not true. One person spoke to me. She was a staff member, and she spoke to me because there was an unclaimed hot chocolate sitting on one of the stands, and she was like, hey, is this your hot chocolate? And I said, no. And that was it. So it's okay. I guess I got cute. Not for nothing. No, I rebuke that because I got cute for me and for you. Okay, all right. On that note, this was fun. I definitely spent way too much money on books, but it's okay because we're supporting writers. Yes, we love supporting writers and thinkers and movers and shakers who are not CEO billionaires. All right, I think that's all I have for you, but thanks for hanging out. If y'all like seeing me do more book stuff like this, let me know. Well, I mean, even if you let me know, I'm gonna keep doing it. Like, even if you're like, I hate it, like, I'm gonna keep doing it because I like books a lot. And you know, there might be a video coming up soon where I actually read some of these books and we talk more about them. So stay tuned for that. Am I becoming a booktuber? Is that what they're called? Booktubers? Booktuber. Okay, that's enough. Bye.